couldn't remember if I had the camera down there in the middle or what. All right, hello everybody, welcome. Gonna get into our lecture for March 31st here. Rory is making a cameo here. You making a cameo, Rory? He's over there grabbing something and running the other way. She's wearing her Halloween costume because she wanted to today. Anyways, okay. So let's go ahead and get in here. So if you haven't watched already, please be sure to watch the explanation of course changes. I think a lot of people did watch that, but if you haven't and you're tuning in, make sure that you watch those changes of the COVID-19 policy changes. I can pull these in here real quick. Rory, what is it?
Honey, Daddy's teaching.
You want some chips?
Come on, come on.
Okay, she's... Rory. I don't know what she wants. You want some more chalky chips, Rory?
Creative Galaxy.
Yeah, go watch some Creative Galaxy. Okay. So yeah, the changes basically were that the most important one is you need to be able to submit daily writing every day. Okay, so every day that there's a lecture on here, that we have one of these recorded lectures, make sure that you're going through, checking out the daily writing. And you can always find those on the main channel here. Right, so it's like right here, and I label it very easy to read. So there's the 26th. That's from last time. As you can see, it had 13 views. And then the first one was the 24th. So it's, once again, you know, as I explained last time, it's fine if you can't make it live. I know people have to work. I know people have other classes, other things going on in these crazy times. Totally fine. The main advantage to showing up and watching it live is that you can ask me questions, and you know, you almost get like one-on-one tutoring if you want to do that, because I think last time we peaked at like 6 live people. Okay, but that's fine as long as people are turning it in. The big issue is, though, me like looking over some of the daily writings, a lot of people did not turn it in. There were several people that did, but there were a lot of people that did not turn that in. So make sure that you're turning in daily writing, because that's also attendance. So you get basically hammered if you don't get that turned in, because I have no other way of taking attendance, and we have to take attendance. So remember that you can turn that in. So if you didn't watch from last Thursday and you go back and watch it and write up a daily writing for it, then I'll give you credit for it. Okay, I said 48 hours, but whatever, I'm going to give you a chance. If you didn't do it, go back, do it. I'll give you credit for it. Just make some progress, okay? So that's the most important thing, is that you need to do that for attendance, okay? The live stream, hopefully you found your way here. I've been, you know, sending out an email every time I'm about to stream. I'm going to post links in the daily writing folder, and then you can always just go to the YouTube page and watch it there as well. And I'll put a link. I don't know if I put a link to the notes in the description, but it's always in the daily writing where you can find the notes, okay? So just make sure that you're clear on all that. I think some people are still a little hazy about it, but that's what needs to happen. Okay, so for today, I'm going to give you guys one final extension until the 5th, okay, at midnight. And I feel like I just have to do this, or there's just going to be like massive failures. There might be massive failures anyway, I don't know. But like looking at the rough draft, the draft like submissions, there's like less than half of the people have submitted even a rough draft, and that was due 3 weeks ago. So, Jesus. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's really crazy out there for y'all, and everybody's busy with everything, but that's crazy in my mind. And I really want y'all to pass. There's so many smart people in here, and frankly, you don't even have to be like a genius to pass English 101, right? At least you shouldn't. I guess maybe some classes you do. But for my class, if you're just showing up, turning stuff in, thinking about stuff, putting in some work, you're going to pass, as I always say. Okay? But I can't pass you if you don't turn stuff in. If you don't turn in daily writing, you don't turn in big assignments, you miss 50 classes, there's just no way I can pass you, because it just wouldn't be fair to the rest of the department, right? For other people that have standards, I mean, grades would just not mean anything anymore. I mean, I kind of wish they'd do it with grades anyways and just focus on projects, but that's a different story. But anyways, I need to be consistent, because it wouldn't be fair to all the other students and all the other instructors if my class did not at least somewhat resemble the standards of the department, okay? So I'm trying to help y'all out as much as I possibly can, but at the end of the day, you got to turn stuff in, or you can't pass the course. And I'll tell you, this semester is definitely alarming in terms of the number of people, the number of absences that are getting racked up, and the number of stuff that's just not getting submitted. So just please make sure you're at least doing that, okay? Because there's just no way you can pass if you're not turning stuff in, okay? Now, I almost finished all of the P3s. I was just emailing them out. So if you're from the 8 o'clock class, I got most of those emailed out. I'll finish those the rest of the afternoon, and then I'll email out the 9:40 classes later today as well. So look for that. That'll have an update on your attendance, on the daily writings, and on all 3 essays with the total of your grades. And remember, you can do revisions for all of that as well. Now, after going through that, adding up, all of the attendance and daily writings and things like that, just like I just alluded to, the daily writing submissions are abysmal. Okay. Now, some of you are working really hard, and I really respect that. I really appreciate that on many levels. So if that's you, I'm not talking to you. But in terms of like this critique, but I just, there's 29 total possible daily writings, and the average submissions were far, far lower than that. There are some people that did pretty much everything, but the number is far, far lower. So let me count that up with you here real quick. Yes, I'm going to do that, Danny. Great question. Yeah, I am going to email those out. If you didn't get yours, then I got it kind of in the middle of doing them, and then I had to finish up the notes for today and get started. But yeah, those will be out by this afternoon. Yeah, and if you have any questions, just email me. Hey, Jeff, what's up? Just email me if you have any questions about it, and we can figure it out. There was one student earlier, I had her down for a certain number of absences. She emailed me. She's like, hey, I think, I had less absences than that. Can you double check for me? And at least on one of those absences, I think maybe she'd come in a little bit late, and I forgot to just readjust the attendance for the day to include her. Because if you come in late, I still count you as present, right? I've had people come in like 40 minutes late before, and I'll still count them. Okay, I just forgot to adjust it that day, so that was my fault. Changed it up. She got her attendance back. So if there's something like that where you think I miscalculated or whatever, then just let me know. For attendance, I go back and I look at the daily writing and I see, did you do the daily writing that day? If you did the in-class writing that day, you were obviously there, or at least I'm going to assume you were there doing the daily writing. You could have missed and submitted the daily writing at the same time as class was going on. If you did that, I guess you're just slick and you got away with it. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on that. Okay. But look here, I'm going to count this up for you. So every day there's daily writing, and then anytime there's something written here on the syllabus, then that was a homework assignment that had daily writing too. So it's 1 daily writing for if there was no homework, and 2 daily writings if there is homework, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and then as of last Thursday, 29. So that's 29 possible total daily writings up through last Thursday. Okay. Now, when I calculated up the grades this time, and what you're going to see, what I email out later this afternoon, is that I went ahead and just gave you guys 5 on the house. Okay. That's as generous as I could possibly be, but I gave you 5 on the house. So I only counted 24, and the grades were still abysmal on the daily writings. Okay. So I'm giving you 5 on the house, just COVID craziness. It's early in the morning. Whatever, I'm just going to sling you guys 5 for free, okay? But what I'm decided to do also to try to help you out a little bit is I will now allow you to make up to 5 more, okay? So if you're missing some daily writings and you want to go back and do them and improve your grade a little bit, you can do up to 5 for extra daily writing credit, okay? Now that's already pushing it, because there are some students, like I said, that actually did pretty much everything, and this is a little unfair to them, I'll be honest, but just the sheer number of students that are just getting slammed on their grades from not doing these daily writings that are completion grades is just mind-boggling. So I'm just trying to help you out as much as I can. So if you want to do that, I know there won't be many people that do it, but if you're one of the people that wants to work hard, do the work. It's the same amount of work. It's just a little late, but if you want to do it, I'll give you credit for it. That is definitely another way that you can improve your grade. Remember also that you can submit revisions. So for any of the essays you goofed up, you didn't understand the prompt, you had 4 other tests going on that day, you were having a bunch of personal stuff going on, whatever the issue is, why maybe you didn't get the grade that you wanted to get, you can do revisions. I'll walk you through it. You know, I can give you some suggestions. I can give you additional comments, whatever you want. Hey, thanks, Daddy. I'm trying to help y'all out. I know it's tough out there. Yeah, anyway, so remember you can do the revisions also, okay? Now, the university made a couple of changes here that I'm going to tell you about, and some of these are still kind of a work in progress, but I'm letting you know what's going on. Basically, everybody should have gotten this email right here, because it said it's to students and professors, so I assume everyone probably got this, but I'll just hit the highlights for you. They're extending the drop deadline to April 22nd, and they're permanently increasing a student limit on drops from 4 to 6. You can have up to 6. Now, when they say drop, what they mean is withdraw with a W. That's very different from if you drop it in the first week. If you drop a class in the first week, then nothing shows up on your transcripts, like nothing ever happened. If you're in the class beyond the first week, it's a W. So I don't like how they use the term drop because that can be confusing. It is a withdraw with a W. So you can get a withdraw, which will put a W on your transcript, all the way up through April 22nd, which is like the very end of the semester if you want to. So that could pertain to this class if, you know, you're still tuning in to these videos and you're not passing the class and there's just no way you can do it. You're just missing way too much work and you just don't want to do it. I'll tell you right now, if you do the work, we can get you in a passing position, right? If you don't have like 50 absences and you want to do the work, you can pass, okay? But if you're at a position where you just feel like you can't, you can get a W in this class if you want, or you can take a W in your chemistry class or one of those other classes as well if it's just looking impossible for you, okay? So talk to your academic advisor. We talked about W's early on in the semester. Basically, remember, it just shows up as a W with nothing else on your transcript, so it just tells people reading it, hey, you attempted the class, you stayed in for a couple hours, some weird stuff happened, and for whatever reason, you didn't complete the class, okay? And if you only have 1 or 2 of those, that's fine. Like I said, I took a W in a 499 religious studies class when I was an undergrad. The dude was assigning like 150 pages a night. I was taking 6 other classes. I was working a job. I was playing intramural volleyball. Had this girlfriend that took up all this time. I couldn't do it. There's just no way to physically keep up with the reading in that class. So I took a W. It's fine. I made it, okay? So just taking 1 or 2 W's is okay. But you need to keep in mind that if you take a W, that could affect your enrollment hours. It might lower your enrollment. So if you drop below full time, that could affect your financial aid. You might have to pay back some loans early. You might not be eligible for certain scholarships. I don't know. I was an academic advisor, but that was a very long time ago. Things may have changed, okay? But just make sure that you talk with your academic advisor before you decide whether or not to do a W. If you have like 18 hours like I had back in the day, I think 12 hours was considered full-time. These days it might be 15, I don't know. But I definitely had over the full-time amount, so I could take the W, drop down to 15. It did not affect my financial aid when I was an undergrad, okay? So it kind of depends on your situation and whether or not you want to take that W, but that is on the table. It is an option. If you think that you're going to get an F, I would highly consider taking the W, especially if you're if it's not going to affect your financial aid. Okay, so consider it. The other option, the other thing that they've changed is they are allowing people to pass. It doesn't say that in this email, but I got another email where they are allowing people to change their grading over to satisfactory no credit, so SNC. Now, the details are forthcoming. They have not finalized this, is what our director said as of yesterday, but they are considering doing this for for the vast majority of undergraduate classes, definitely for English 101. This is going to be a possibility. So what that means is, I think what our head has said is that you still need a 72 to pass, because right now we're A, B, C, NC course, like I explained at the beginning of the semester. So if you get less than a 72, it has to be an NC. I'm not a monster. If you have a 71, we can figure out a way to get you to 72, okay? But that's supposed to be the cutoff, all right? But this would be useful if you're going to get a C or something in a class, like this class or your chemistry class or whatever, and you'd rather not get that C, you might just be able to change it to SNC. And especially if you're talking to future employers about that, and you just tell them, well, that was the COVID, and I was dealing with all this personal stuff and blah, blah, blah. Most people will forgive you for that. I can't imagine anyone that wouldn't, okay? If you want to take an SNC on it, that's probably okay. However, if you do have an A minus, B plus, something that you think is good, that's going to be on par or above average for what your grades typically will likely be, I would of course take that, right? So if you're realistic with yourself, if you're like, you know what, I'm a B student, I got a B plus right now in English 101, I would just take the B plus, okay? So, if your grade is significantly lower than what you think your potential is or how you're going to perform in other classes, maybe consider taking the S if you think you're still going to pass. If your grade is higher or on average, I'd probably keep it. So once again, talk with your academic advisor, see what happens. Now, I don't know how this affects financial aid. I didn't think SNC affected financial aid, but the email from the director made it seem like it might, like it may not count as attempted hours. I don't know about that. That's a situation I never encountered when I was an advisor, okay? So be sure to talk with people about that. I may have misread the email, but just talk with your academic advisor. But it seems like that is probably going to be on the table pretty soon, and they'll have the details out in the next couple of weeks for that. Now, the SNC, that does not count as a W, and it basically just shows if you take something as an S, it just says that you had a passing grade in the course, but doesn't tell you what it is. It doesn't tell anyone reading it what it is. Okay, and then I mentioned the W deadline is extended. Okay, so I think that has covered all of the logistical changes here. So a lot of stuff's changing. The university's trying to help y'all out because I know this sucks, having to do this distance learning. So they're trying to help you out. I'm trying to help you out. So, take advantage of that in a good way. But yeah, so just to summarize, P4 due Sunday by midnight. Once again, if it's like Monday, afternoon or something, whatever, just get it turned in. I'm doing that because a lot of people have not submitted a rough draft, and I'm just reading between the lines to say that means people are probably not in a good place on this essay yet. So to turn it in 2 days. So I'm giving y'all a little bit of extra time. You can still submit your annotated and rough draft. If you want to submit that by Thursday, I'll still give you credit for that, even though it's like 3 weeks late. Be sure you're submitting the daily writing. You can turn in up to 5 daily writings at any point throughout the semester. You can turn in 5 late daily writings. I'll give you credit. I'm already giving you 5 on the house. SNC for all freshmen. Be sure to talk to your advisor about that, and W as an option, particularly if you're going to fail a class. Consider that as an option. Okay. If you W, you still have to retake the class. So if you take a W in English 101 or Chemistry 110 or whatever, you still have to retake the class if it's a prerequisite for other classes. And English 101 is a prereq for like every other humanities class. So you'll still have to retake it. The difference is they just won't know that you failed. You just got a W instead of an NC, which basically says that you failed. Even though, remember, NC does not affect your GPA, it still tells anyone reading it that you did not receive a passing grade. Okay. If you have any questions, just let me know in the chat about any of that stuff, that logistical stuff. Danny and Jeff are talking in the chat. That's why I'm doing these live streams, is just in case you have something live that you want to say to me. Okay. So we talked about the introducing professional rhetoric a little bit on the last class. I just want to reiterate and hit on that. I know a lot of people did not end up watching that, so it seems, with like the 13 view count. But I just want to hit on this assignment sheet one more time here, just the highlights, and we're going to work on that all day today here. If you have any questions about your research projects too, while I give you time to write, you can go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so if you're just like, hey, I need help finding a source, or hey, I need, can you help me out with the structure? I have this idea or that idea. You can even ask me to look something over. If you want me to look over a paragraph or something, you can ask me that. I've got a second screen over here. I can open it up on the second screen where everybody doesn't see it. And then I can like read it over while people are writing and give you comments. Or I can give you comments this afternoon. Whatever you want to do. Okay, so this one is basically learning how to write a professional cover letter or some other application some other like personal narrative that you have to include in an application for something professional. Okay, so this could be for grad school, it could be for an internship, could be for a job, could be for a scholarship or a grant. It could be for something like study abroad. Just anything where you're having to create a narrative of yourself that is competitive, that's trying to get you to join an outside organization. Okay, so I posted up a couple of examples last time. I'm still going to hunt down a couple more student examples for you and post those up, and I'll have those ready for you by Thursday. But the main stuff that you want to focus on here is you need to research and understand the discourse community. So who is this organization? What is common to talk about in the field that you're going into? And we're going to practice all of this today. Research that properly, and then do the best that you can to market your specific accomplishments, who you are, what your goals are to that organization. That's the ultimate goal, is to show them. Remember the saying that I had last time that you always want to repeat to yourself over and over again when you're applying to these things is, they know you want them. That's why you're applying, okay? So you don't need to spend a lot of time saying, oh, your school's awesome, I love it, or I've always dreamed of going to Harvard Law School, or I've always wanted to go to Stanford Business School. Like, they know that. It's, that's nice, but it's kind of a waste of time too, right? You want to show them why they want you. That's what they don't know. They know you want them. They don't know that they want you yet. That's why they're reading your application. So you want to find a way to connect your past, what you've done that represents, a level of mastery of your subject, and connect that with your future, what you want to do at this organization, and show them how that's connected, okay? Because they're going to know your accomplishments too, right? They're gonna have your cover or your CV or your resume that you're submitting. They're going to have your transcripts. They know your grades. They know your job experience. They just don't know necessarily how that's prepared you for this new organization, okay? So it's like, okay, you had that business 250 class. So what? What did you do in there? How has that prepared you for this? Or, okay, you had this internship in the past with this organization. Cool. That's a cool organization. Like, what did you learn there? How has that prepared you for what you're going to be doing in this situation? Okay? So that's what you need to do. You need to connect the past with your future at that organization. That's the link. That's what the cover letter is, okay? So it shouldn't just be, a praise gallery, right, for the organization. It shouldn't just be a recap of what your resume already says, okay? It needs to explain it. It's a narrative. It's telling them who you are and what you're going to accomplish, and why they should believe you based on these things in the past. Right, so that's kind of the main goal that you're going for here. So you're writing a cover letter, and then you are going to analyze that cover letter and explain why you think it would actually be persuasive. So that's what the main goal is here, and we went over that a lot more last class, so you can go back and view that section if you want the big rundown, but I just wanted to hit the highlights there for you. So it could be a cover letter, an abstract, some kind of business proposal, and the main goal is that you need to try to demonstrate, not just demonstrate excellence that you've had in the past, but demonstrate that you're going to be excellent at this company. Okay, so one of the main goals is to focus on yourself. What have you done? What are your accomplishments? And not show a knowledge of the field, and not show particular interest in this specific organization. Remember, Common App is very common. A lot of people do that for applications these days, but it's really bad. If you can avoid that, you should at all, try to not make it seem generic, right? You don't want to look like you're applying to, 50 different grad schools, and you're just going to take whoever, accepts you, right? Like, that might be the case, but you don't want them to think that, right? You want it to feel like you've done a lot of research, and you specifically want to work at this place. You specifically want to go to this place. Okay? So you want them to feel special. You want them to feel wanted, like you've done your research and you know you're going to be awesome at this place. Okay? So I'll show you just that one example that I did here when I applied. So the main thing that we did is just sort of, what have you done in the past? What has prepared you for this? What's a major project that you've done? And then that third paragraph here, it's this one. Why do you want to go to this specific place? Name drop specific professors. Name drop a specific boss that you might want to work with, or a specific project that you might want to work on at this organization. Okay, so I name dropped 3 different professors and talked about how my research interests aligned very well with what their research interests are. And then if you have room, I have a 4th category here. So yes, I did apply to like 10 different grad schools. So what did I do? These 2 paragraphs were exactly the same. Okay, so this is just, you can copy paste this in all of your applications, right? Just your generic, here's who I am, here's a project I've done. But you want to tailor that 3rd paragraph, right? You want, or, you know, it could be a different one. It could be like a 4th one for you, depending on how you want to approach it. But you want that one tailored paragraph with the very, very specific research that you change for each institution. And each place I applied to, I had a different 3rd paragraph, right? That talked about, it was the same type of stuff. My research was the same, but I was name dropping different professors, and I was emphasizing different strengths of that department that showed I'd done some research. And this well-rounded category, you know, and we're not going to cover that too much with this assignment, but there will be some places that'll tell you, hey, you got to have 1 page single spaced, that's it. Some other places might say 2 pages single spaced, or 1.5 pages single spaced. I believe that Miami University allowed 1.5 pages single spaced, so I added in this extra paragraph here about my teaching. But when I applied to University of Kentucky, they said just 1 page single space, that's it. So I didn't have that paragraph in there. I cut that and just kept these 2 paragraphs, or kept these 3 paragraphs, because they didn't allow me to have any more. You know, there might be another place that'll say, hey, you know, 2 full pages single spaced. Then I would find another paragraph to add in there, or I would add in more examples. So you always want to take up the maximum length that you can on these things. But you can, you know, so you can adjust a little bit in the real world when you're applying to different places that might, you know, have slightly different guidelines and formats and things like that. But the concept is going to be the same. How are you representing yourself? How are you marketing yourself to this organization? Okay. So I'm going to give you guys just a chance to write, and I figure we'll keep this one a little bit shorter. I know I went over on the last few episodes. Remember that you can, especially if you're watching the replay of this, you can speed it up to like 1.5 times and probably understand most of what I'm saying, and that's fine. But last time I'll let you write, so you guys can write a little bit on just kind of the broad questions if you want. You know, where might you want to apply? What are some expectations of this organization? What about the culture? What are some of the qualifications you might have achieved? And then think about specific people. You can look on Amazon. You can search on Google or Wikipedia. You can go to a TED Talk, YouTube video, conference call. Think about the proper nouns. How are you going to market yourself? And then today, I added in just a couple more that are sort of related to that you can add on as well. So, you know, think about Google, think about Wikipedia, Amazon, identify a specific innovation in your field. So what's something interesting that's going on? What's something that intrigues you about your field that you might want to specialize in, right? Now, I know this is going to be really broad. A lot of people probably don't know a major that they want to do, or certainly may not have a specialized idea. That's okay. You can assume that you're applying to some kind of hobby. If you can't think of anything professional, you could think of a dream job that you might want to apply to, or, you know, some kind of internship involving a hobby that you enjoy, okay? So it doesn't have to literally be something you're going to apply to later. It's nice if you have an idea, just so that you can get some practical experience out of it. But if you have no clue, I mean, you can just apply to like a dream job or something if you want to. It's all about just figuring out how to market yourself. That's what the main goal is, okay? So think about this. And I've got some examples that I'm going to walk you through here to give you some ideas, and then I'll give you time to write and ask me questions if you have questions. But what's hot in your field right now? How does this innovation disrupt the industry? So that's kind of the hot buzzword in the last 5 years, disruption, like what's changing, what's going on. So an example of this would be like Amazon's grocery delivery, right? If you're interested in logistics or marketing or whatever, you might look at something like that. But the fact that Amazon ships groceries to people now is a huge innovation. That didn't used to exist. You used to have to physically go to a grocery store and get those groceries. But now that you have Amazon delivering groceries, more and more grocery stores are having to figure out, well, how do we compete with that? Right? And they're offering pickup services. A lot of grocery stores are. You can order online and they'll have somebody ready. I think they might charge you a fee for it or something. I don't do that. I still just walk into a physical store. But that's disruptive, right? People had to figure out, how do I deal with that? This is new. This is crazy. Like, it's doing business in a totally different way. How do we handle that? Another one might be something like Uber, right? That came along where now you can just get a ride from any other person that's affiliated with Uber pretty much anytime, anywhere. Before then, you had to hail a taxi, and many cities didn't really have a taxi system unless it's a big city like New York or California. Like Knoxville, for example, never really had a robust taxi system that I knew of. There are some, but there weren't that many, and it could take a while, especially during large volume hours like rush hour or whatever, to get a taxi. But now you can get an Uber. Now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't ever taken an Uber, so I don't know for sure. But I imagine the experience is probably a little bit different. The rates might be a little bit different. It's just disrupted the transportation industry, especially in large cities, right? Where now Uber is kind of out competing taxis. Or you have things like, what is the name of it? I can't remember the name, but like basically where you can stay at people's houses. I'm sounding like such an old fogey, but where you can stay at people's houses, right? You can like rent a room temporarily overnight instead of staying in a hotel and just pay a price for that, right? So now that's putting a lot of pressure on the hotel industry, right? Where you can get kind of these custom rooms, custom prices, custom locations. You know, some of them are even bed and breakfast style. They'll cook you breakfast in the morning, or they'll have some other kind of amenities that hotels usually don't offer. Oh, hey, what's up, Jeff? So that's something that's been very disruptive too to the hotel industry and sort of the hospitality industry. Is now you have, you know, a bunch more competition from relative amateurs that can just list on, you know, that site. I really wish I remembered the name of that site, but there might even be multiple sites that do that now. So that those are things that are disruptive in the industry that are changing the way that. You know, business is done. You might even think about something like Twitch, for example, disrupting, you know, kind of the live entertainment industry. It was, you know, primarily known for streaming video games, which were relatively obscure for a while, but now it's developing into a major industry. I mean, you could even think of esports as disruptive to traditional sports. I think a student wrote a paper last semester that was saying that esports netted more in the United States from almost every other sport, excluding football, and I think basketball might have earned a little bit more, but it was pretty close. So it earns more than like baseball and, you know, soccer and some of these other sports. So esports or different streaming platforms could be very disruptive. You could think about Netflix being disruptive to cable companies over the last 10 years. So that's what I mean by disruptive. Like, what's an innovation that's going on in the field that you're interested in? It doesn't have to be a technology either. It could just be a way of thinking, an idea. So maybe something like school counseling has changed in the era of, you know, school shootings recently, or in the era of, you know, cyberbullying and stuff like that. Maybe the approach to school counseling has changed over time. Maybe the approach to law has changed over time in respect to some of these different events, financial events that have happened over the last 10 years or so. Maybe financial law has changed in some ways. So just think of how your industry is disrupted. Airbnb. Okay, thank you, Danny. That's what I was talking about. Okay, so Jeff says, who is the audience? Your audience is the organization you're applying to. Okay? So it should be like you're sending this cover letter out today, right? So if you're applying for an internship at Amazon for logistics, you should assume that you're sending this to the actual HR person that would read something like that at Amazon. So you want to be as specific as you possibly can be. Some scholarships are a little bit vague. It might be some broad organization that you're applying to. You may not be able to find out exactly who that person is that's reading it. Or sometimes with grad schools, it'll be a committee. And that committee rotates. It changes all the time. So you may not know exactly who's going to be on that admissions committee. So you may not know the exact person, but you should at least know the institution and try to figure out what does that institution favor, what's something they're strong at, what's something they're known for. I've got some examples here in just a minute I'm going to show you. But you want to be as specific as you possibly can be about the organization. And if you can get it down to the exact person that you might be applying to, or that who might be reading this, you need to target them. So get as specific as you possibly can be. So it's the professional audience that would read this and make the actual literal decision on whether to hire you or whether to admit you to their program. That's who your audience should be. Okay, so that's the audience for the letter. And then for the strategy section, you can assume your audience is me. So in the strategy section, you're telling me This is why I think this letter would be persuasive for these reasons. We'll work on the strategy section and the structure of the letter, the actual writing of the letter, a lot more on Thursday and next Tuesday. For today, we're just going to be hunting down organizations and thinking about some of these qualities that I'm talking about, the culture of the organization, what's going on in your field. So I'm just kind of give you a lot of time today just to work on that a little bit. And we'll work on that some tomorrow or Thursday as well. Yeah, great question. So the letter audience is the professionals who would read it and make the decision. Strategy section audience is me. You're convincing me that this would be a persuasive letter. And once again, I understand y'all are freshmen. Most people in here are freshmen. You might be writing this in a future context 2 or 3 years down the line. And that's perfectly fine. I understand that might be a little weird to think about it in that context. I'm not judging you based on your accomplishments and accolades. I'm just judging you based on your strategy. Did you do your research? Do you understand the culture at this company? Right? Are you trying to market yourself to some specific aspects of that culture? Do you have a strong idea in mind of how you would do that? Okay? Because there won't be many other classes that tell you this kind of stuff, right? Unless you take more like professional rhetoric, maybe some business writing classes or something like that might teach you this stuff, but you're just not going to hear this in a lot of other places, and it's supremely important. And it shows you how the skills we've been learning all semester are actually applicable, even if you're not an English major, right? How these skills are real and they're very, very useful. Okay? Because remember that it's super competitive out there, as I've said over and over again. It's not enough just to have a decent GPA, a decent internship, right? You have to be able to understand your audience and market yourself to that audience, because everybody's going to have that. Right? Because you're not, if 500 people apply to a position, you're not competing with 500 people. You're probably competing with about 10 people, right? If you're a strong applicant. And all of them are going to be strong. All of them are going to have good grades. They're all going to have good internships. And most of them are going to have this kind of knowledge that I'm telling you guys right now. Most of them are going to understand you need to research the organization. You need to market yourself there. A lot of them are going to be from like really nice schools. Like UT is a great school, but you're going to be competing with people from Harvard, Stanford, all of these other Ivy League schools. Don't think they're above that. Just because, like, if you're applying for this little internship that you don't think is a big deal, at Kroger or whatever, Kroger Logistics, you would be mistaken. Everything is competitive. You'll have people that are severely overqualified applying for everything just because the job market is so tough. Right? Like, you might think, oh, it's not a big deal. It is a very big deal. Okay? Even getting something like, for example, in like an English department per se, like a lectureship or whatever that may not even be permanent, may not even give health care, it may not even, there might be all of these things about it. It may not even give a parking pass. Like I've said before, I park in Tyson Park. I don't have a parking pass. I don't have a gym pass. Teaching at the university, like, it's bare bones. I love the department. It's great. But, it's very competitive even to get this job, that I have that doesn't even give, like, a parking pass or a gym pass or whatever. Like, there are literally people that apply and try to get, lectureships at all sorts of departments, for all sorts of careers that don't necessarily have great benefits or don't necessarily pay a lot. And they'll come in from California. They'll come in like internationally, like literally internationally, to try to get some of these positions. So you really can't take it for granted. It is serious, okay? It's not to scare people, just to tell you, you eventually want to move towards taking this type of stuff seriously, if you intend to have any sort of job at all. So yeah, what's going on with the innovation? How does your organization connect with this innovation? How has your education and experience prepared you to interact with this disruption? Who are some of the leading experts in the field? Like, have they written any books? Do they give any TED Talks? Do they give any interviews that you might be able to look at to get an idea of sort of what they think about the field? So if it's in logistics, you might look at Jeff Bezos. You might look at Elon Musk if it's like green energy or space travel or manufacturing or something. Just think if there are some like leaders in whichever field you're looking at and see if you can get access to some of their ideas. I've got some examples here in a second. How does that leader or that book or whatever it is that you're looking at, How does that contribute to the field? Do you agree or disagree? Remember, you can disagree or you can have other ideas. So just because you watch a TED Talk by Elon Musk, you can say, I really liked his idea about this aspect of green energy, but I think we could go even further with your organization in this way. So don't be afraid to challenge, right? Some stuff that some of these professionals are saying out there. Obviously, you're not going to have the same kind of prestige they have yet. But, these professional venues would like that. They like that you're thinking on your own if you have some ideas that are a little bit different from what else is going on. So they want you to be informed. They want you to understand what people are saying about the field, but they also, would like your vivacity, right? Your gumption to stand up and say, hey, this is a great idea this person has, but I think we could go in a different direction, or I would like to, take this research in a different direction. They want you to be bold. I would say most organizations, the vast majority, would rather, if it came down to it, would rather have someone that's slightly less qualified, but is bolder, right? Is, innovative, is risk-taking, is willing to, contribute some fresh new ideas. I've been told as much by someone, a professor that has served on hiring committees before. He told me straight up, we're much more interested in someone that has bold and interesting ideas than someone who has a perfect GPA. Right? Now, obviously, it's better if you have a perfect GPA and bold ideas, but if you just have those bold ideas, they still might take you. I've told an example of my friend before, and there's lots and lots of examples that I have of this, but he did not do that well on his MCAT, which is what you need to do to get into med school. He wasn't even sure if he was going to be able to get in, but he had an internship, Doctors Without Borders, down in Brazil. And he marketed himself really well. He interviewed very well. He has great personal skills, and he wrote a really good sort of cover letter and mission statement about what he wanted to do and what he wanted to accomplish as a doctor and what he would contribute to this, med school he was applying to. And he got in, over other people who had much better test scores almost certainly than he did. But he was able to market himself really well based on what he was able to do. He had some bold ideas. And so he was able to make it. So, don't get too discouraged if your GPA is not necessarily the greatest in the world. Try to get the best GPA you can. But if you learn these types of skills, that can definitely give you a major edge. Okay, so let me walk you through a couple of examples here really quick. And then I'm just going to let you write. And if you have some additional questions for me, just let me know. But here's a website. Now, this is a bit older. I didn't dig too deep in this, but if you're looking for internship possibilities, you can click on this. This is from Forbes. So it's got some kind of narrative here. And then it'll just tell you can look on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Google, see if UT has a listing site or an alumni network. I will, I'll do a little more digging on these. I didn't really dig these up. I just came across this article randomly when I was looking at other stuff, and so I thought this might be useful for y'all. Internships.com, internmatch.com. Now these are .com, so be careful how they monetize. U-Turn, Idealist, Global Experiences, and Coolworks. Now, I can't vouch for these. I have not used these to look at internships, but, Forbes is a legit publication. So check these out. See if they're for you. See if they're interested. Obviously, don't pay for anything for this class, okay? You don't need to spend any extra money, subscribing to internship networks or, buying books off of Amazon or whatever. You don't have to do that. You can if you want to, but you don't have to spend any extra money. I know school's expensive enough, okay? But that's just a place if you're totally stuck and you don't know what all is out there, that could maybe at least give you some ideas. Okay, so just remember that when you're applying to this is sort of intended to be relatively fictional and forward-looking, okay? So it doesn't have to be an actual internship that exists right now for you to apply to it, right? If there's not an internship at Amazon Logistics right now, but that's something you're really interested in, that's something you want to shoot for in the future, you can just pretend they're going to offer an internship in 3 years and just do the best that you can to imagine who you might be applying to in terms of their HR or at least a department that you might apply to. Okay? So you do not have to apply to something that actually exists right now, although you can, if you want to, pretend that you're applying right now, or you can pretend that something that exists right now will also exist in 3 years when you want to apply or whatever. Okay, so I'm pretty loose. I'm very flexible with how y'all want to approach this, as long as you're meeting the spirit of the assignment, which is marketing yourself to a professional organization and showing an awareness of the field and of the organization itself, and sort of matching, once again, what you hope you will have accomplished by then with your goals and your aspirations at this specific company. That's what I'm looking for. And I'll have some more examples for you, like I said. We went over the 2 last time. But let me show you just some really quick examples for how you might approach this. Okay, so let's say that you want to go into law school. All right, let's just say, all right, I know I eventually want to go into law school. I'm not really like 100% what I want to do right now, but, maybe I'm thinking I want to try to go to UT Law School. Okay, so you put a link here. You could click on it. And let's say that, as you're looking this over, you're kind of thinking, what about law school would be interesting to me? So if you click on the professors there, and I just typed in to Google UT Law School faculty. Okay, so you can just kind of flip through and just see, okay, what are they all about? What's going on here? Right? So you could say, okay, we got criminal law, procedural law, wrongful convictions. Go down, look at this, poverty law, legal profession, constitutional law, blah, blah, blah. Let's say that maybe you're thinking, you know what? I would like to look at corporate law or something like that. Maybe I want to think about the gig economy and how the legal work is working around that. Maybe you heard something in the news about, maybe a bunch of the Uber drivers trying to file a lawsuit because they're not allowed to unionize or something like that. And you're like, you know what? I want to look at like union law, corporate law, or like gig law or something like that. And then you come across this professor, like, oh, okay, she does corporate governance, crowdfunding, insider trading, mergers and acquisitions. So she does a lot of stuff. She looks cool. And you can just kind of click on her, say, okay, what's up with her, right? And then you can just kind of read about this. Okay, so these are some things that she's done here. It tells you what her, specific interests are. So you can just kind of skim through and say, okay, Martha Stewart, insider trading, fraud, looking at that, maybe looking at the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. So you can see what she's published. Okay, so she has authored numerous academic texts, Business Enterprises, Legal Structures, Governance, and Policy, and then Martha Stewart's Legal Troubles. So I didn't actually do this, but we could just really quickly click on this. Let me see. Now, this is like, boom. This, if you can find this and do this approach, this will absolutely blow people away. It doesn't always align like this perfectly, but if you can do something like this, find a professor at an institution you want to apply to, read their stuff, read what they've published, like look at what they've published, and then if it's related exactly to what you want to do, click on it, skim through it. Now, you don't have to buy the whole book. Once again, you might get some free access to 1 or 2 of these chapters, but if you can even name drop something out of this book, it will blow their mind, okay? If you can do that, if you can say, I really want to go to UT Law. I would love to study under Joanne McLeod. I really loved her book, Martha Stewart's Legal Troubles. I'm very interested in insider trading. I, took a business class about this, Business 350. I did this project here. I did an internship with JP Morgan, learned about, financial securities and things like that. And I think my research would align really well with what Dr. McLeod's doing at UT Law School. They'll just explode. They'll be like, oh my God, we got to get that student in here right now. How much money can we give her? Right? Like how many scholarships can we give this person? Okay, so it may not be exactly that extreme. But that's the kind of thing, if you can do that, that would be absolutely perfect. If you can look at their profile like that, see the stuff they've published, and if you can at least name drop something out of it, just to show them that you've either read it. Now, you don't want to look like you're kissing their butt too much, right? Like, oh my God, Dr. Whoever is amazing. you want to show that, like, no, what she did is related to what I want to do, and that's specifically why I want to work with her. That's why I'm applying to UT, is I want to work with Dr. McLeod. And if you could name a couple of other professors too, that'd be perfect, right? But especially if you can name a professor and something they've published, that you're at least familiar with it. Once again, you don't have to read the whole thing. If you can just skim the introduction, even just look at the editor's note or something right there on Amazon. You can just skim this little editor's note here and get like some idea of what's going on. But the more you can read, the better, obviously. If you're taking it super seriously, you'll read it. But at least the introduction can be super, super helpful. Just skim the intro, 10 minutes, boom. And then you can find other people too. You can just use the search feature up here. So if you're just like looking for, corporate governance or whatever, you can just, type in corporate. Okay, she does corporate. Who else does corporate? Okay, they have another guy, Brian Crum, who does corporate. George Cooney does corporate. Michelle Kwan does corporate. So they have several people there. So you would know this would be a great match for you, right? Probably because they have numerous people. They have at least 4 people that do corporate governance. And so that's going to be great for you. So you can connect with them and you'll probably have a good time here. Whereas if you're trying to look at something like patent law or like intellectual property, I'm typing in intellectual, don't see anything. Patent law, don't see anything. So they might do something like that, but it does not appear like they have a really robust faculty that focuses on intellectual property law. So if you wanted to do that, you would probably try to apply to a different law school. Not necessarily. You could ask. I mean, you can email these people too. You don't have to do that for this assignment, although you can if you want. You can email somebody, that does something similar to that. Like there's one guy I think that said like internet law, right? Like if you look at Dr. Reynolds here, you could email him and just say, hey, I know you're interested in internet law. You can click on his profile and read it. I didn't read him. But you could just ask him like, hey, I'm really interested in intellectual property law, specifically around copyright infringement and YouTube or something like that, right? You could ask him, hey, is that in your wheelhouse? You could even ask him, does the faculty there, do you have research interests, or do any of your colleagues there have research interest in intellectual, patent law and things like that? And he'll probably tell you. He'll be pretty honest. He'll probably be excited to answer that for you. He'll be like, wow, that's really interesting. I don't unfortunately do that, but my other colleague, Dr. Smith does that. Or he could say, yeah, actually, I wrote an article about that, back in 2011. I think you'd be really interested in it. Here's the name of it. And then you're already like getting your foot in the door. They know who you are. They know your name. They might say, oh, that was, Jane Johnson. I remember her emailing me a few years ago. She seemed very bright, and she was interested in my article. Hey, that's networking, right? That's how networking works. You just got to reach out and just ask some people some questions. So once again, you don't have to do that. You don't have to email them and ask them questions about that, but you can, right? I've done that before, and I wasn't even applying somewhere. I was interested in a certain, kind of research, the representations of Buddhism in Victorian literature. Not that many people do that, but the guy who wrote that book that I mentioned in my cover letter, right? This guy, Jeffrey Franklin, he teaches over at, or he did teach at the time at Boulder, Colorado. I just shot him an email, said, hey, I loved your book. I read it. It was awesome. Do you have any recommendations for, I noticed that the department he worked in didn't have a PhD program. I said, would you recommend any other PhD programs out there? And are there any other like books or articles that are really new that you could recommend? And I told him, I've read this and this. I really like this idea about what you wrote. Do you have any recommendations? And he was like, sure, here's some recommendations. So yeah, I mean, you can find people like that. You can even get a little mentorship, get some guidance out there, even if you're not a part of their, even if you're not going to their program. Now, not everyone's like this. If you're, trying to talk to a big wig, at Harvard or Stanford or, some of these other like super prestigious people, they may not have time for you, right? They might just brush you under the rug. But a lot of people really will try to help you out as much as they can if you just email them, you're interested in their work, you look like you've done some research and you're asking, that you're not just trying to like, wheedle your way into getting accepted into the program, that you're genuinely interested. They'll hook you up. So that's what you can do, just look at a program, Yeah, you need to find the audience to write to, Jeff. Just to answer your question, basically doing what I'm saying, you need to try to find like specific people. So I've got some other examples here for you too. Um, so just yeah, if you're applying to a grad school of some sort, law school, med school, whatever, do that. Just look at the faculty, see who's there, read what they've got. And I've got a business example for you here too at the UT Business School. But that's a law school example. So you could do that. You could also just go on Amazon and just maybe you want to do something with entrepreneurship. Maybe you want to look at, okay, what about the gig economy? What if someone wants to start their own business? How does the law work in that way, right? What are some of the legal ramifications of becoming an LLC, limited liability corporation versus trying to stay individual? What are the tax ramifications for that? Maybe you're interested in looking at that in terms of the legal structure, right? You could just click, on Amazon. I just typed in corporate law Amazon, and I found this Entrepreneur's Guide to Law and Strategy. So you can just kind of go through. It's by a professor at Yale Law School. So that could be something that's, particularly interesting for you. Okay, so it's a big book. It's 840 pages, so you don't have to go through the whole thing. But once again, just understanding like, hey, I've thought about this. So even if you were applying to UT's law school, you could still read this, even though it's not by someone who's a faculty member there. You could just show, hey, I'm familiar with stuff that's going on legally right now in terms of the gig economy or in terms of, the tax structure of LLCs or, whatever the case is. So that's just a way that you could find a book on Amazon that's related to something hot in your field, entrepreneur, gig economy, strategy, marketing, stuff like that, and that could be useful for you. And then a final example that I have here is you could try to find a TED Talk or something like that that's related. So I just did a quick Google search here. Now I haven't actually watched this, but there were several things that could work. But this is 4 ways the sharing economy is changing us. Right? And so this is talking about platform-based companies like Uber, Airbnb, and TaskRabbit are reinventing how we get to work and how work gets done. So this is just a relatively quick video. I think it's probably like 15 minutes or less. And then 12 minutes. So you could just get a sense of, okay, this is what's going on in the field. The gig economy, Uber is disrupting the field in certain ways. TaskRabbit is disrupting the field in these different ways. It has these different legal ramifications. Whatever it is, this can give you a sense of what's going on and what might be interesting. So even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, if you're just interested in like the gig economy from a business perspective or a legal perspective or whatever, you could listen to a TED Talk or an interview, with some other, bigwig in the field, and that can give you some basic ideas as well. So these are all like really simple ways you can start to get a good sense of what's going on in your field, what's hot, what are people talking about, what are they debating, and specific people that you might be interested in working with when you look at something like UT Law. Okay. And the final example that I'll give you here, and then I'll give you all just a little bit to write, is let's say you're interested in business. So maybe you're interested in brand management. So, once again, you could just click right here. Now, I already have somebody pulled up for you here. Are both of them that way? Here we go. So, once again, I just looked up UT Business School faculty, right? And so you can just kind of skim down, see what people are looking at: marketing, research, consumer behavior, and decision making, right? Global supply chain, expertise, taxation, marketing, consumer behavior. So you can see they have several people that are saying they do consumer behavior here. Supply chain, lots of supply chain stuff. It looks like distinguished lecturer, data mining, machine learning. That could be really cool. Hey, if you're interested in machine learning, social media analytics, predictive analytics, that could be pretty hot. He looks kind of like a younger fellow. He's probably, just come out of grad school himself fairly recently, so he might know, what's some of the new hot research going on. A lot of times kind of the older professors can still be in the know, but sometimes you'd be surprised. It's those young guns that might know exactly, like, what the real kind of new, innovative, hot stuff is that's going on. Now, if you're interested in like brand management and marketing strategy and things like that, you could go with Niraj here. But yeah, you can kind of get a feel for all of these different things. So if you click on him, once again, maybe click on Niraj, and then you can get a sense of, okay, here's some stuff that he's published, innovation in data-rich environments. Now, this stuff, now these are honors and awards that he got, so it's not telling you a lot of his publications. That's going to be a little harder to find, but you can at least see sort of what his awards are and sort of what his focus might be. And you can read more here and get a sense for sort of what he's done here. So he's had articles published in these journals. They don't tell you what those articles are, which is a little frustrating at times. You can at least get a sense of the journals that he's focused on. So not everybody's going to tell you an exact book that they've published that you can find on Amazon. But nevertheless, you can get a sense of this. And if you're interested in him, I guess you can get his CV here if you want to. Like, I just downloaded it as a PDF. Let me see if I can just open it here. So you can get his curriculum vitae here, and that's going to tell you all of his awards. And then these are his publications. Okay, so in theory, you might be able to find these. So UT in their databases, like we learned in the, the previous unit that y'all are turning in Sunday, in the research, you could probably go find some of these on JSTOR, or you might be able to find these articles in UT's databases. So you could just go see if you could just find one of these. Potentially, they don't look that long. Most of them look like they're like 10 pages or something. You could just go see if you could find one of these that looks interesting. Skim it, name drop some ideas out of it when you're applying there. Okay? So that's another way. Just once again, look at the faculty. What do they publish? What are they interested in? What are they writing about? If you can find more information about it, find it, skim it, see if it works with the ideas that you want. Mention it in your cover letter. Now, once again, this is not just to get you hired there, but it's to make sure that's somewhere you actually want to be, right? Because in the previous example that I mentioned in law school, if you really want to do like patent law and internet law, there's only one guy at UT that does that, right? And if you email him and you figure out like he doesn't do the exact kind of stuff I want to do, and if you we're looking at another law school and they have like 5 faculty members that do it, and they're all really excited and interested in your research. And when you email people, you can get a sense for who they are too. Are they too good for you? Are they not willing to talk to you? Or are they super friendly, right? And they're like, genuinely asking about your research, telling you more about themselves, inviting you to further emails and further conversations. Are they telling you to keep in touch? You can get a real sense of the vibe of the kind of people you're going to be working with. Because I'm here to tell you from some experience, some people are a lot more open and a lot more chill about stuff than others. Y'all probably know that. It's common sense, right? But when you're actually emailing people, or if it's something like UT's business school or UT's law school, once all this COVID thing is kind of washed over, hopefully sooner rather than later, you can actually go talk with them, believe it or not, right? You can say, hey, can I meet you in your office for office hours and talk about some of my ideas? Or can I ask you about some of your ideas? Or ask about like what's going on in this law school and things like that. You can actually meet people if they're local. In theory, you could fly out and meet somebody somewhere else if you want. When I was applying to grad schools for creative writing, I was on a trip with my buddy out to Biltmore, and I think I was wanting to apply to, I don't think it was UNC Asheville. It was one of those UNC schools. This was a long time ago, but it was like on our way. It might have been Asheville, actually. We were like going around Biltmore anyways, and so I was like, hey, I'm thinking of applying to this grad school. Why don't I just see if I can meet one of those professors there and talk with them for a little bit? And I just rolled up. I think it was Greensboro. Just rolled up to Greensboro and just met with one of the professors, talked about their program. My friend and I, we made a day of it. I think we like went around the town. We may have done some hiking, and then we went out like clubbing. Went to some of the nightlife stuff there just to kind of get a sense of the community and things. So it was a good time. We turned it into a fun trip. I was able to meet with some of the faculty and talk with them there. So you can do that. You can go on a trip to these places and actually talk with them while you're in the application process if you want to. But you can also just email them. So yeah, that's something that could be interested in brand management. And then I found another book on Amazon that's kind of related to that. Once again, I don't remember what I typed in here. What did I type in? I don't remember. But I found this book, Social Media Strategy. marketing, advertising, and public relations in the consumer revolution. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you and you're into business, um, you can click on that. It's got a cool picture of a cat in a vest. I mean, it's got to be awesome. But yeah, you can just kind of skim through the introduction, just sort of see um, what's going on. I thought they had. Oh, here it is. Yeah. See what's going on in some of their different chapters. So that's another way you could find a book. You could probably find TED Talks about that. So, anyways, hopefully this has given you some ideas. But just go ahead. I know I said I was going to cut this a little bit shorter. Ended up, of course, standard Mr. Moats here, going over a little bit. But anyways, check it out. Write some questions. See what you can find. So see if you can figure out what's hot in your field right now. What's something that's disruptive or is changing the way that your industry works. Whether it's a technology, whether it's a certain set of ideas, whether it's certain politics or legal practices or economic considerations. What's going on in relationship to something you might be interested in, and then see if you can find an actual place, right? An actual grad school, an actual job, an actual internship, to just kind of set you up with some of these proper nouns. Okay, so just go ahead and I'll give you about 10 minutes just to write and work on this. I'll stay here chilling just in case you have any questions. Yeah, just write some of this down. If you wrote about this a little bit last time, you can just expand on what you already wrote. So you can write about any of these questions or any of these questions over here. Okay, so go ahead and write. I'm going to mute this real quick. I'm going to swing by the restroom, but I'll be monitoring the chat. And I'll be back in just a moment. Okay. So just a couple more minutes. Remember also that you can do the if you're thinking about applying to an organization, you can use the conference calls as well, right? So maybe you're interested in like cutting edge biology, right, or something like that, or immunology or whatever. Maybe you want to go to med school, or maybe you just want to, work for the CDC or something like that, you can listen in on publicly traded companies. So I think, let's just say, Regeneron's been in the news a little bit lately because they're working on some different COVID-19 treatments. But let's say that you're interested in that. You heard about Regeneron. Maybe you just want to, it doesn't even have to be a conference call about earnings, right? Like maybe you want to listen to something like this, JP Morgan 2020 Biotech Conference Call Series. Okay, so maybe you just want to hear about what's going on in the world of biotech. What are a bunch of different biotech corporations? Either it's Regeneron or, some of these other ones, Gilead, and you just want to see, what's going on here. Once again, you don't have to put your full name though. Whenever you fill these things out, right? So you could just go ABC at they only look at this information if you're actually trying to call in to make sure you're a real analyst, pretty much. But yeah, you can listen in on this for free, and they don't send you anything. They don't double check anything. Click on it.
The stream you have requested is currently unavailable. Please check the event listing, as the event has either not started or is currently being prepared for on-demand viewing and will be available shortly.
Okay, well, that one, that one's a bad example. Let me try one more here. Wait, this has already happened, right? It says it's... Alright, let's just see if the conference call... So you may not always find perfect ones there, but...
Welcome to Regeneron Pharmaceuticals
Okay.
Q4 2019 earnings conference call.
So once again, you don't
I'm
have to listen
Sylvia,
to
and I'll
this
be your
whole thing.
operator
You
for
can turn it
today's call.
down.
At this time, all participants in a listen-only mode.
Oh, there it is. I was
Later,
like,
we will
where's the
conduct
bar?
a question
So you can
and
just
answer
skip
session.
ahead and just listen to the
Research
analysts.
collaboration with Veriad focusing on the development of new oncolytic virus-based treatments for cancer. Taken together, we continue to expect 2020 R&D expenses to increase. Next, non-GAAP SG&A expense
so
was
that's a lot of the business
$446
stuff.
million.
Please press the pound sign or the hash key.
Okay, so this is the analyst
Solid
part.
tumors. I know you guys have a number of different targets you're going after and waiting to see the data, but just maybe remind us what gives you confidence there. And then just on Dupy, can you give us the sales split by indication or maybe the prescriber mix? Thank you.
Yeah, George, why don't you start, and then Marion, you can take the Dupy question.
Number
Let
of
me get the beginning of that question.
And our first question comes from Terrence Flynn from Goldman Sachs.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, so that's from Terrence Flynn, works at Goldman Sachs, is an analyst in the, biopharmaceutical industry, and is asking, the CEO or the CFO or some big executive, whoever wants to field the question, is asking Regeneron, a specific question here.
Morning. Thanks for taking the questions. Maybe just two for me. One on the first is with respect to bispecifics, maybe George, what gives you confidence that these will be successful in solid tumors? I know you guys have a number of different targets you're going after and waiting to see the data, but just maybe remind us what gives you confidence there. And then just on Dupy, can you give us the sales split by indication or maybe the prescriber mix? Thank you.
Yeah, George, why don't you start, and then Marion, you can take the Dupy question.
Okay. So first of all, we have no reason to think that they wouldn't be. I know that there's a lot of speculation, but it hasn't really been tested with reagents like our bispecifics to see whether solid tumors are indeed more resistant or not. But that notwithstanding, in case single agent therapy is not as effective for solid tumors, that is why we are preparing for that possibility with our various combinations. And
Okay, so I'll skip it, but you can see, like, this is like the biggest of the big wigs, right? This is where, and you get access to this. You don't have to pay for this. So yeah, you're a freshman. Yeah, maybe you don't, you know, you're not going to be the analyst at Goldman Sachs, the head analyst, you know, for 30 years or something. But you get access to this. You can learn a lot about your field that you want to go into and what's going on in the field by listening to conference calls like this. How long does this, you know, to listen to this whole thing and be, what, 30 minutes? That's such a very small investment in your future if you're really trying to get a job, you know, or you're trying to, you know, go to med school for whatever this is, trying to go to grad school for biology, and you want to understand some of the science that they're talking about at this industry, or if you want to understand the business side of it and work, you know, for some of these places. It's awesome. So you have, you know, the analyst there, you have the CEO, and they're like directing this like super high level conversation about their research and about their business. But anyway, so you can go to those too. I mean, any publicly traded company, you could think about the S&P 500, a company you might want to work at, or even some smaller companies will have stuff like that. So that's another possibility that you can get access to, are calls like that. And a lot of times those conferences like that JP Morgan conference from biotech stuff, usually that's available. I don't know why that one wasn't, but those are just some more suggestions for places you could find information-specific people. Because you could say something, you know, if you name dropped in your cover letter, you said something like, hey, you know, if you're applying to, you know, work at, you want an internship at Regeneron, working in one of their labs or something, then you could say, you know, I was really intrigued by that Q4 earnings call from, you know, 2019 when whatever his name, Tom from Goldman Sachs, was asking about tumor growth or whatever. I really liked what Gary had to say about that here and here. That really relates well with what my research is and what I want to do and what I would like to bring to the team, you know, doing solid single reagent tumor research or whatever, right? So if you can just name drop that stuff, just say, hey, like this person said in this conference, or hey, I would really like to work with Gary on this project that they said they wanted to initiate in the back half of this year, or just something like that. Just show that you're in that conference call, that you're thinking about it and you're engaged and you want to be a part of it, right? That you understand what's going on in the field and that, you know, you're prepared to jump right in. You have some fresh and interesting ideas about what you want to do at this internship related to the field. So once again, this might seem like some really like high level stuff, right? Like you might be thinking, no one's going to do this who applies to this internship. Yes, they are. The people who get it are going to do this. Okay? The other 500 people that apply are not going to do it, but the top 10 candidates are going to do it. Okay? They're going to do this kind of research. They're going to understand who's working there, what's going on in the field, and they're going to be able to articulate how they're going to fit into the organization. Okay. All right. Well, I think I don't know if you can hear all that craziness going on in the background. But anyways, okay. Well, that's going to be enough. We'll make it 3 minutes shorter than the previous videos. But just make sure that you think about this a little bit over the next couple of days. Be sure to write down some daily notes. Write down your ideas. It's okay if it's not perfect yet. Just I want you to start thinking. We'll work on this a little bit more Thursday. I'll give you some more examples. We'll talk about how to structure this, how to write this in a little bit more detail starting Thursday and moving into next Tuesday as well. But anyways, that's going to be it. Don't forget, I'll remind you on Thursday as well, but the new deadline for Project 4 is going to be this Sunday. So make sure that you're working on it. Turn in a rough draft. If you want credit for it still, I'll give you credit for it. But you got to get that in there. If you have any additional questions, just email me. Let me know. I'm happy to help you out. If you're still kind of struggling, whatever stage in the project you're on, just let me know. And we can try to get you in a good spot. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank y'all very much. Have a good day. And we'll see you Thursday.